In Ecuador, the National Assembly's Oversight Commission debates the report on the impeachment trial against President Guillermo Lasso, who is accused of embezzlement. In India, authorities reported at least 54 deaths following heavy inter-ethnic clashes in Manipur. And in Palestine, Israeli occupation forces continue the siege of Jericho for the last 15 days, causing great losses to the region's economy that depends on tourism. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Saturday in Ecuador, the Oversight Commission of the National Assembly has scheduled to vote on the report on the political trial against President Guillermo Lasso, accused of embezzlement. The session is underway and it will evaluate the draft report prepared by a team of advisors of the Commission, which concludes that the President of the Republic did not incur in the presumed crime of embezzlement. On this basis, the document recommends to the members of the Legislative Board not to continue with the impeachment process promoted by the opposition benches of the government. Once the Oversight Commission decides whether or not to accept the recommendations, the President of the Assembly, Virgilio Saquicela, has up to 5 days to convene the plenary for the impeachment process. 92 votes in favor will be required for the approval of the motion. Colombian President Gustavo Petro called on the nation's Attorney General Francisco Barbosa to assist in accordance with the law in the investigation of crimes against humanity. President Petro reminded the Attorney General that according to the Colombian Constitution, he is the President of the Republic and the Attorney General's office has the obligation to present information about the investigation it is carrying out when requested to do so. The statements of the Colombian head of state follow a controversy between him and the Attorney General after a journalist asked if the public ministry knew about the link between prosecutor Daniel Hernandez and the Gulf Clan, who according to the journalist had filed investigations on 14 alleged members of the criminal organization. Petro recognized the division of power while asking the prosecutor to provide answers about the 200 people killed between 2008 and 2010 by the Gulf Clan. On Friday, the government of Colombia and the dissidents of the FARC have informed that they postpone indefinitely the installation of the peace talks table, assuring that the conditions to start them have not yet been completed. In a statement signed by both parties, they point out, among other issues, that the arrest warrants for the leaders of the dissidences involved in the negotiations have not yet been lifted. Likewise, the document explains that it is necessary to adjust the mechanisms for citizen participation at the table to guarantee its breadth and diversity, and to consolidate with speed and responsibility the full functioning of the monitoring mechanisms. The decision was taken at a meeting held in the Colombian city of Caqueta. In Peru, a right-wing extremist group attacked this Friday the facilities of the independent media ID Reporters in Lima. In a new hostile act against the press, members of the self-described group, the Resistance, threw objects and trash bags to the media's headquarters, besides lighting flares, shouting insults, and throwing fireworks trying to frighten its journalists. The National Journalists Association denounced the facts and pointed out that a dozen police officers were on the scene and did not react to the aggression. These events took place after last February 27th, the same extremist group attacked journalists of the public channel TV Peru. In Paraguay, former candidate Payo Cubas, third in the presidential elections last Sunday, was arrested on charges of alleged disruption to public peace. The police reported that the request for arrest was made by the economic and computer crime prosecutors, detailing that the grounds could be extended to other crimes that Payo Cubas may have committed. Likewise, authorities clarified that the former candidate agreed without impediments to his arrest and did not resist it. Meanwhile, the politician was transferred to the headquarters of the specialized grouping of the National Police in the capital of the country, while the public prosecutor defines whether he will continue in that place or be referred to another penitentiary. After the arrest of the Paraguayan Payo Cubas, the also former presidential candidate Efrain Alegre spoke through social networks demanding the release of the politician.
Another blow to democracy. The arrest of the Paraguayan citizen Cubas, all for not opening the envelope forth What does it precisely consolidate the suspicious of a major fraud in electoral justice? That's why we demand the freedom of all citizens arrested for asking for transparency. We're only asking for transparency to the electoral justice, the freedom of all of them, and the opening of the envelope 4 to give peace to the citizens.
And Cubans remember today the explosion of Saratoga Hotel in Havana 1 year after this event, which killed several people, left some wounded, and caused serious material damages. The accident took place on the morning of May 6, 2022, in the historic center of Havana, claiming the lives of 47 people and injuring 99, most of them hotel workers and people who were walking around the place at the time of the explosion. The event caused material damages to the 3 lower floors of the building, as well as to some 23 buildings in the area. The incident occurred while a liquid gas truck was supplying the tourist facility, and a gas leak caused the building to fill with fuel and subsequently explode on contact with an ignition source. The accident evidenced the solidarity of the Cuban people, who turned out to support those affected and collaborated with the rescuers for over 144 hours. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In the Dominican Republic, blackouts of up to 12 hours were reported in several sectors in the last 2 days. According to the National Electric System Coordinating Body, the constant blackouts are due to the failure of 5 generating plants for lack of fuel and other unspecified causes. The company explained that Unit 1 of Punta Catalina thermoelectric power plant is available. However, it only produces 80 megawatts out of an installed capacity for generating 362 megawatts. Likewise, residents of sectors such as Sabana Perdida and Pantoja suffer the interruption of service, an average of 10 to 12 hours a day. The deficit in energy generation affecting the Caribbean island is forcing the distribution companies to apply blackout schedules. Brazilian state-run company Petrobras announced it will create a working group with China Energy International to analyze joint business opportunities for the generation of renewable energy and green hydrogen. The Brazilian company said Thursday that the 2 parties intend to start developing business opportunities as of the second half of this year. According to Petrobras, the partnership with the Chinese company reinforces its new management's guidelines to expand investments in the renewable energy field in order to guarantee a smooth energy transition. China Energy International has sought to explore areas such as energy storage and projects and studies with green hydrogen and ammonia, in addition to operating in sanitation and desalination in some countries. In the United States, an explosion was recorded at a refinery in the town of Deer Park in the state of Texas. Preliminary reports show several wounded, while authorities attempt to smother the flames. Local authorities reported that the fire started at 14 local hours, which led to the evacuation of personnel present. They also indicated the injured persons came into contact with the multiple types of oils and gasoline produced by the facility. Meanwhile, plant representatives urged the population to stay away from the area while work continues to extinguish the fire. On Saturday, authorities in India reported at least 54 deaths after heavy inter-ethnic clashes. Thousands of soldiers were deployed across the state of Manipur, bordering with Burma, following a demonstration by tribal communities on Wednesday that led to riots. A tribal group came out to protest against the request of the state's largest ethnic group, the Meitei, to benefit from affirmative action measures. Although the authorities and the security forces have not yet presented an official public balance sheet, so far a local press media on Saturday counted a total of 54 fatalities based on data collected in the morgues of these states. The crowning ceremony of King Charles III of England started this Saturday at 11 a.m. local time at Westminster Abbey in presence of the royal family, over 2,000 guests, and a large-scale security operation. Justin Welby, Archbishop of Canterbury, is in charge of presiding over the coronation. the first since June 1953, when Queen Elizabeth II was also crowned in the Anglican Temple. Heads of states and government, world leaders, and representatives of various monarchical houses attended the ceremony. Prior to the coronation, almost 2,000 demonstrators against the British monarchy rallied in the city centers, Trafalgar Square, demanding a head of state elected by popular vote. In this context, at least 6 militants were arrested by police, among them Graham Smith, director of Republic Group. In Belgium, the Prime Minister Alexander De Croo pledged to transfer to Ukraine a portion of the 180 billion euros illegally seized from Russian patrimony. According to Prime Minister Croo, the money will be distributed in military aid and support for Ukrainian refugees. The official detailed that using Russian money to rebuild Ukraine makes economic and moral sense. In this regard, Russia called Western attempts to transfer seized Moscow assets to the Ukrainian government barbaric and assured that it would take action. The Kremlin added that freezing its asset is theft and violates international law. On Friday, heavy fighting in the Sudanese capital of Khartoum disrupted efforts to deliver badly needed aid to trapped civilians after yet another fragile and frequently violated truce ran out. Sudan has plunged into chaos since fighting erupted in mid-April between the country's two rival top generals. There is increasing concern for those trapped and displaced by the fighting, and aid workers and civilians have said there is a dire lack of basic services, medical care, food, and water. In central areas of Khartoum, gunfire could be heard Friday, 2 days after the United Nations warned that the Sudanese people were facing a humanitarian catastrophe, and after the latest in a series of ceasefires expired earlier on Thursday. Envoys from Sudan's army and the Rapid Support Forces met for direct talks in Saudi Arabia as mediators press for an end to a conflict that has killed hundreds and sent tens of thousands fleeing. In a joint statement, Saudi Arabia welcomed the start of the pre-negotiation talks in the coastal city of Jeddah between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces and urged the belligerents to actively engage and came to a lasting ceasefire. Numerous rules have been violated since the conflict broke out in mid-April. This recent Saudi initiative in Jeddah is the first serious attempt to end the fighting that has endangered the country's fragile transition following years of unrest. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. On Saturday, Palestinian authorities reported that the city of Jericho has been under siege by the Israeli occupation forces for 15 days. The measure of force is causing great losses to the region, whose economy depends on tourism. The Israeli army continues to maintain military units to control all access to the city by stopping and searching any vehicle or truck entering the city and preventing the passage of people and goods. The government of Jericho and the Jordan Valley reported that the latest statistics show an estimated loss of $30 million in the first 4 months of the year. The government also mentioned that so far this year the Israeli army has caused more than 6 deaths in the city. They also detailed the demolition of 12 Palestinian homes and 55 others were ordered to be demolished. The world celebrated the International Day of the African Heritage. On purpose of this celebration, peoples of the region asked European powers to repair and restore all the pieces stolen during the colonization. This date has the goal of promoting the richness of the African heritage all around the world. In this context, South Africa demands the United Kingdom to restore the biggest diamond cut in the world, known as the Great Star of Africa, which is set in the royal scepter that Charles III used in his coronation. In addition, 12 of 54 members of the Commonwealth requested for apologies from the King of the United Kingdom for the consequences of the colonization in Africa. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, more than 170 people were killed and dozens injured after devastating floods and landslides caused by heavy rains. Local media reported that at least 176 bodies were found after devastating rains in the province of South Kivu. In that sense, it was known that this figure could increase as rescue bodies continued to collect corpses from the shores of the nearby Lake Kivu. Also, the government of that African country declared 3 days of mourning. This is after the torrential rains at the end of last year left 169 dead in the Congolese capital, Kinshasa. In Guatemala, evacuations continue after the eruption of the volcán de Fuego. Authorities said that the evacuated people are from 5 communities near the volcano. Also detailed that persons from the other 2 communities were still being evacuated, while 13 shelters got set up in 4 municipalities. Security forces ensured that the eruptive column has 6,000 meters high over the sea level, and it was displacing in the west and southwest direction. We have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.